Rural-urban migration in India, a critical view. In this essay, we'll try to understand various dimensions of migration and see what are the factors responsible for the rural-urban migration and what could be policies and programs to solve the problems of both rural and urban populations. We'll also see what the government is doing about it. Now, migration is an important aspect of the population studies and more so with the faster developing countries like India. India is one of the biggest growing global economy as can be seen in this graph. Recent economic growth, which is more than 7%, and the faster industrial development that the country has seen in the past decades have caused a faster urbanization. This urbanization has acted as the major magnetic effect at work, and it has drawn people from rural to urban areas. Reasons for this are very obvious. There has been a scope of better employment opportunities, better standard of living, and provisions of improved amenities in these cities, and they are the main reasons for this. There are other reasons as well which are driving forces, and migration is the natural outcome of these things. There are other compelling reasons which are the driving force for the migration, and they are the deprivation, inequality, poverty, and unemployment, especially in the rural areas. There are various socio-economic dynamics involved in migration issue, and there are a number of causes that have given rise to rural-urban migrations. Reasons for migration may vary from country to country, and it can vary from place to place and state to state, and it could be on the basis of socio-economic and cultural status of the demography. The factors which are largely contributing to rural to urban migration are therefore, as said before, poverty and starvation, unemployment, low agricultural productivity, failure of crops, landlessness, poor education and medical care, and lack of credit facilities in the rural areas. All these factors are found in rural areas on one hand, but on the other hand, cities offer the better scope of employment, better gender equality, prospect for better life, education, health, drinking water, wage differentials, and finally, bright city lights. Now, it is clear that in India, rural to urban migration is caused due to push and pull factors taken together. But various research works carried out by the scholars from time to time have pointed out that the cause of migration is not same for male to female, skilled to unskilled, or educated to uneducated person. Migration in India precisely depends on other characteristics of demography also. Although migrants in Indian cities are economically better off, they suffer from poor living conditions and in terms of housing, sanitation, drinking water, health and education, etc. And this has created a lot of problems at the urban centers. To get control on such social influx, government needs to find the key drivers, which are the root and fundamental causes of migration. The government should work on the grey areas which push the rural people to the cities. These push factors are more dominant than the pull factors. It is because most migration is caused due to distress at the place of origin, that is the rural areas. So, to reduce the moment in the process, the government should not only initiate new policies and interventions, but also reorient the existing policies in this direction, and therefore should prioritize employment creation, income generation, and poverty reduction. Now, as most of the causal factors are interrelated, therefore one umbrella action model or an integrated approach will have to be developed to address all these integrated issues simultaneously, and that can take place by skilling India and making in India at a national level. And this has been the policy pronouncements made by the Prime Minister in the recent times. There is no doubt that the poverty and starvation are the fundamental factors, and they have over a period of time compelled these people to migrate to the cities. Therefore, migration has not been a matter of choice but matter of compulsion. This type of compulsion arises due to distress conditions of migrants. Once the causes are identified and their contribution in migration process gets ascertained, the government can evolve further policy to address these issues. But the success of any policy very much depends upon how it gets implemented to fulfill the need of these people at their place. The issues and challenges of rural to urban migration and their socio-economic consequences have a huge effects on the socio-economic conditions of these people. Therefore, they are catching the attention of policy makers and planners, that is urban and regional planners, to address such issues. The need of the hour, therefore, is a lateral approach and a different perspective to understand the social flux, and it has to be addressed accordingly. To control rural-urban migration, there is a need for policy interventions, as said before. Now, many interventions have been taken at the problems at the place of origin. The places of origin have been places of distress factors, as said before. Therefore, policy focus has been clustered around the distress factors, and in fact, they are the push factors in the model. Now, one giant step that the government has initiated was Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, that is MG-NREGA, as it is well known. Now, MG-NREGA has fetched a magnetic changes in the rural life, economically and socially. It has made sure that each adult member of a family, male or female, is provided with 100 days of work in a year. And this is certainly raising the purchasing power of the family, and it helps getting their livelihood. Although MG-NREGA started with the best of intentions, but the real benefits are not being shared by the target demographic. There are a lot of loopholes at the stage of implementation and accounting process. While MG-NREGA provides a means of livelihood, providing better and adequate education and health facilities in rural areas is also essential. This will control the pace and magnitude of migration. Besides, vocational education will have to be added to the curriculum, so that they give a practical exposure to the students from the rural areas to get their livelihood. Another important strategy will have to be in the areas of agricultural productivity. This will be a key factor in deterring the migration process. Therefore, government should promote sustainable agricultural practice in general, and further it will have to be productive and profitable, and obviously the focus will have to be in the areas where migration is dominant. For this, special provisioning of irrigation, high yield varieties, seeds, fertilizers in subsidized rates will have to be made available. Further, provision of agriculture credit facility at large and crop insurance will have to be added to this effort. Another essential integrated approach for the government will have to be to encourage other allied factors and enhance job creation in the villages. And this will have to be done through high value agriculture practices like horticulture and floriculture, To increase income and employment, the government will have to ensure a development of non-farm rural activity besides its farm component. As a part of this, village entrepreneurship program will have to be developed. And these programs could be village handicrafts, rural folk arts, dances, music, etc. and they should be initiated. For this, initiatives will have to be provided to the rural youth to start their new venture with the help of available resources. As strongly advocated by late President Dr. Abdul Kalam, basic provisions and amenities should be made available to the rural masses to facilitate a dignified social life for the rural folks. PURA, that is provision of urban amenities in rural areas, is a scheme to some extent which fulfills the electoral mandate in few states where it is being implemented now. The PURA mission is very important because it manifests how to empower and enable rural people through economic connectivity in the villages. PURA scheme lays down a basic foundation for the creation of physical connectivity, electronic connectivity, and finally the knowledge connectivity. The PURA scheme therefore is meant to benefit the masses at rural areas, and it essentially lays the basic rural infrastructure development along with economic regeneration activities. To conclude, migration and related issues are one of the major thrusts of research nowadays, but in spite of number of studies that have been conducted, there are still lots of issues related to the migration that have not been addressed. The main cause and concern behind the migration is the economic factor. So, agriculture and non-farm sector at rural landscape at national level will have to be given the top priority to control this problem of migration. Hence, the government will have to kick off an inclusive rural policy and program in the country.